Hi, Naima. How are you?
Hello. Good evening. Hope you're doing well.
Good evening. I am super excited to have you on the show. You are one of the many professionals that is much needed in our time, especially in this time for autism awareness, but not only for autism awareness, for moms. Like you are one of the go-to people that we definitely need. So we're gonna hop right on into it. Introduce yourself to our audience. Tell them the amazing things that you do.
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I really do love sharing the expertise. I use that word lightly, but the expertise I hold so that I can share. So my name is Naima Bond. Um, I I still am an early childhood intervention professional. I started my career in the Head Start space, being a disabilities coordinator, helping teachers understand how to integrate children with disabilities and challenging behavior into a classroom setting at the kind of preschool and pre-K level. And then I did complete 9 years at the Marcus Autism Center. And this is kind of a mouthful, but working on social communication delays in our littlest citizens, 12 to 24 months, who had social communication delays, red flags for autism. I did this in conjunction with Florida State University's Autism Research Center. And so what I did was I taught early intervention providers, I kind of coached them on a model that they coached parents on to encourage communication skills and things like that for their children.
That is awesome. And you said development delay, and that was one of the things for my son. So I may have ran into you when we were taking our son there. I taking my son there, so
Right.
I
I'm
may have
sure
ran
I
into you
probably passed right by you.
and didn't know it. So, what inspired you on your journey to childhood development?
I always loved young children, and I always feel like every child has the next step, no matter where they are developmentally. Every child has the next step. So I always felt very honored that maybe I could help other people identify and recognize what some children who maybe learn a little bit differently, what their next step looks like. Um, I have a master's in special education and a BA in human services. So I'm a
Oh,
very much a people person. And so, again, my tagline when I would train preschool teachers was no preschool or pre-K dropouts. We can't have the little people not liking school early before they get to the big show. So
that's
my
very
job is
true.
to try to help teachers understand how they learned, how they incorporate, what kind of activities, what kind of adaptations can we make so this child can feel successful. Because you're just starting out. You gotta like school a little bit.
That is very true. And I thank you. I thank you
Oh,
because
thank you.
teachers like you, professionals like you are very rare, especially now.
Oh, I appreciate
So
that.
I thank you.
Because
How
I
do
did get the tagline of not that I liked it not, but special needs police, meaning when therapists or other people came into the environment, I really wanted to make sure that they were truly working with the children and not just doing things to collect hours. So I was really paying
mm,
attention. Listen to teachers. Did the therapist share with you the strategy? Well, no. Well, then we need to talk to therapists because it doesn't matter if they can perform for the therapist. When your classroom, I need you to see evidence or at least know when these situations happen what to do. So I definitely got the reputation where I was making sure that if you came in these doors with these children, you were delivering what they needed.
I appreciate that. I'm going to pause on that because we're actually going to jump over to that later on because that
Yes.
is definitely needed. Um, for the moms that aren't aware, some of us, myself, I was blessed enough to have a team, my husband and I, that was able to tell us ahead of time, hey, your son may have autism. But for the ones that don't get that or there's not any signs showing, what process is there for them to learn like early development signs as far as showing they may have autism?
Sure. So the first step, to be quite honest, is understanding developmentally what should you be seeing. Most
Okay.
children should be speaking their first words at 2. So if they're
Okay.
not really saying a lot, not you know verbalizing in words that you understand, that could be a red flag. So
Right.
really understanding at 3 years old, kind of what should you be seeing, which that sounds, simple, but again, if it's your first example of a 3-year-old, whatever your child does is going to, that's what
Me.
we do. So
Right.
just making sure that you understand, like, 3-year-olds should be kind of observing other children, should kind of want to play, maybe not completely play together, but play next to, watching,
Hmm.
observing what other children are doing. You kind of want to have an
Right.
idea of what should your child kind of be doing at this age. And then you can kind of step back and see, well, my child's really not doing a lot of eye contact. My child, really wants to stay with me, or really isolates themselves, doesn't really want to be in the group. So those type of things will kind of help you say, well, maybe, and sometimes it really is a maybe. It's like, well, maybe something's going on, and maybe I should
Right.
be a professional. Because again, the professional might say, no, actually, this is, your child is fine, but you at least took the step to make sure,
Sure.
because you didn't notice things. Parents should be the first expert on your child.
Very, very true.
Teachers can inform, they can kind of blanket things, but you
Hmm.
should know your child. So being very confident in what you're seeing and what your child is doing is it would be the first step.
How crucial is that early diagnosis, that early intervention for autism?
I truly have seen, as difficult as, first of all, the word autism just makes it sound like you've got something, to be quite like, no one wants the autism, right? But
Right.
truly finding and seeing and identifying things early, I've truly seen brain trajectory change. I've truly seen children who kind of started to isolate, not being very verbal. Once they get some intervention, get some good strategies under their belt, parents understand how to communicate, how to interact. I've definitely seen changes in young children. And again, what we have to remember is, for a 2-year-old, the way they're acting is a habit. It's easier if you've only been on the earth 2 years. Once you get
True.
here and you've been here 5, 6, 7, 8, I, there's always hope, but it gets a little bit more challenging to, quote unquote, break habits or teach new things. When they're
Right.
younger, it's just a little easier to guide and teach new strategies. So the sooner you identify or see things, the better. And I know it absolutely can be scary, it, that the autism world, you hear things, you see things, so it can be scary. But the other part is, how are the red flags actually showing up in your child? You may not
Right.
have to take on the whole spectrum. You may just have to take on this little chunk, kind of observe what's going on with your child, and then meet that child's needs. So don't take on the
Right.
whole spectrum. Take on your
So true.
chunk and learn your child, what works for your child, and then build on what works for your child.
We did talk about that yesterday, from different perspectives for moms, dads, and it was one of those things where, with my son, we found out really early. He was premature, so we got the heads up ahead of time. We got all the
Okay.
doctors lined up ahead of time, all the counselors. We were Market Center, Choa. We were everywhere. We were every other day or every day. We were at a doctor. So that helped a lot. But not only that, us doing our research, but also not treating him any differently.
Yes, that's
I
what I was
I
thinking.
I tried to push the limits. I was telling him I tried to push the limits just enough before he would have a breakdown, changing around stuff around the house. Like, he'll see the house one way and then I'll change it around the other way. Because I know things have to be the same, but if I figured if I started early enough where he's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, mommy gonna do this anyway, he'll be fine. Which now he's 13 and he's like, okay, you change around the house, you must be bored. So
But I love that, because sometimes when we do find out our child learns differently or is having a harder time, we lower expectations.
Mhm.
But my thing is, they still have to make it in this world. They still
Very
have to
true.
go outside. They can't stay inside. Although my 26-year-old, I wish he would stay inside sometimes, just protect him from the world. But
Right.
they have to go outside. So I
Right.
love that you were doing things to kind of challenge that, and that you kept expectations. Now, it may take them longer to learn a routine. They
Mhm.
may not like it. It may show you that
Mhm.
they don't like it,
Yes.
but expectation still needs to be there. The higher level expectation, whatever that next step is, we need to hold fast to that. Because I always say, if you're asking your child to pick up their clothes off the floor, he may be nonverbal, but if he could say, I don't want to pick up the clothes off the floor, would that be okay? Or would you say, no, darling, what I said was I need you to pick up your clothes?
Correct. And there's times, like even now, I have to repeat it like 5 times. It's just like, hey, remember, I said this. Hey, remember, I said this. Hey, remember, I said this. Remember, after you do this, I said this.
Correct.
So there's a repetition that you have to do, true enough, but eventually it becomes a routine for them. It's like, okay, you know what, I did this, so let me pick it up and put it where it belongs. So that helps. That is very helpful. It is, I say autism is not a disability. They learn differently. They handle things differently. But they are geniuses. I feel like they operate the side of the brain that we can't use. They are very, very smart.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Believe it or not. As far as cultural stigmas and misconceptions in communities of color, what advice would you give moms of color, as far as, because it's hard to explain to your family sometimes what autism is, and it's not them being rude or being disrespectful or just being spoiled.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. I'm not saying, corporal punishment is the answer, but I've definitely heard, you're not stern enough, you're not firm enough,
right?
You're too lenient. It truly is a diagnosis where they are learning differently, so they have to take in information differently. And what I would say is truly, for your family, you have to be the advocate. You have to, even though it's harder for them to understand, you may have to pull some family members to the side and just say, look, I know what you're seeing. This is maybe the first family member where you're seeing some different ways of learning, but this is the best way for him or her to take in information. This is how I need to do things. And again, if they are supporting you with watching or, giving, babysitting or something like that, or watching your children, being real, like, this is how we have to do things. And this is why. And some of it truly is just education, really helping family members understand that I'm doing this for a reason. I'm not letting him get away with anything, but I just have to learn to use more words, maybe even demonstrate or model a little bit more. Because again, whatever, if you have other children, you may not have to do that. You scaffold for where the children are. So it's a form of scaffolding. I may have to verbally say this 3 times to make sure, kind of look at him, make sure his body is facing me. Because if I'm not paying attention, I'm not going to hear you.
Right.
So I may have to do some other things that I may not have to do with Sarah. Sarah, I can yell over her shoulder. She, all right, Ma, and she's got it.
I got you.
but I may have to with Marcus get down lower, use simpler words, say what I need, and wait for him to like lock into my eyes so I know he heard me, and then maybe count to 10, and then maybe say one more time, and then see if he's doing it. He just takes in information differently. And that, I would say, just advocate and stay firm, because I know sometimes in families we have roles, or we may be seen a certain way, but when it comes to your children, you just stick your chest out, and this is how it has to be.
Yep, that is very true. And you said about making sure they get your attention. My thing is always pointing at my nose. I make sure he's looking at my nose. Like, okay, well, look here, so I know you're paying attention to me, and let him zone in, and then I start to talk to him.
That's right. And then I love that you know your child.
That, okay, mommy said, you said this. Okay, great.
I love that. And because you know your child, you know what needs to happen to have his fullest attention on you. And then with the fullest attention on you, you can hold the expectation, because I sometimes, when working with parents, if they had a rough day, I'll kind of have them go through it. And sometimes, and it's easy, day to day, depending if you got to work late or you're stuck in traffic, you may forget that I really need to get down in front of him and say it. I might say it over my shoulder like I do with everyone else. And then when the expectation doesn't happen, I'm getting frustrated, but I have to remember, okay, you know what?
I missed a step.
All right. I need to make an adjustment. That's kind of on me. I forgot I didn't do my cue because
Right.
again, that's where I get the most success. So okay, let me regroup. Let me try this again because you're human, and I allow a lot of space for being human and having some days where we're more on it and to
Where's
on
the,
what we need
where's
to do. And some days, but just if you don't see certain things happening, just be mindful. Like, okay, I didn't make sure he was facing me. I didn't do my cue, so maybe
right.
that's why the room still looks like this. Let me take a woosah moment for a second, get
Hmm.
myself together, go back in, try again, and see
And
if I see a
again,
different result.
that is one of the things I learned. My husband and I is learning how to say when we're wrong and teaching our boys. Okay, you know what? Mommy and daddy was wrong. We're sorry. Especially if I do miss a cue or if I notice I've gotten frustrated because I didn't do my part, so he didn't do what he needed to do. I have to check myself. I'm like, you know what? Mommy's sorry. I didn't tell you this, so let me start over. This is what I need you to do. And I think that makes a really big difference in the way your child communicates, whether they're autistic or not. Because now they know,
Absolutely.
okay, if mommy is wrong, I can admit when I'm wrong, and that's going better going forward.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And we have moments as well. And when they see that, it kind of like, oh, it
Hmm.
kind of helps because some of our autistic children too, they want to make sure I'm doing it the right way and things like that.
Right.
So showing that also shows them that sometimes, as much as you try, things happen, and that's
It's a
life. So I
mistake.
love
Things
that.
happen. Yeah. We're not perfect. As much as we try to be, we are not perfect, and we try to show our boys things happen. What you do is pick up your big pants, apologize if you're wrong for something, fix it.
That's right.
It's
I
not going to
love
be perfect. It may take time to get over it, but
that.
just keep going forward.
I
And it's
love it.
not always an easy role. I gotta give credit to his therapist because before we could really understand how to maneuver certain things, especially changing grades. He's in middle school now, so we had to take
Yes,
months to kind of transition from elementary to
absolutely.
middle
A
school,
big
and it took a
jump.
lot of practice and a lot of therapy to get that
Hmm.
change going without having a complete meltdown. And for moms, especially going into the school area, how can they be their child's loudest and most informed advocate?
Yes. So when you're in the school environment, especially when you're doing leaps from like elementary school or new schools, truly and honestly, go snacks. Find like the whoever's on his team, truly and honestly, the person who is receiving you the best, you feel like you have the rapport with, really
Right.
work on massaging a friendship because you do need someone, I hate to like this, but someone on the inside, right?
Right. That's
Someone
yeah.
who,
Oh yes.
yeah,
Yes,
you
you
do.
do.
So when things come up, you can say, now, Jane, my little one, today just
Hmm.
you need someone who you can kind of talk to, and an advocate also who, when you're not there, might be able to step in and say, well, maybe you rushed him a little bit too much, or, maybe
Right.
his schedule was slightly out of sync. Trying to identify someone. It may be his primary teacher, homeroom teacher. It might be the person who receives him from the car. Someone on the inside who, if
Understands.
right, who understands and who nothing else, if you're in your absence or, can at least say, well, Miss Tina is on it. Let's bring her in. Someone, I mean, honestly, I'm just saying, someone on the inside, if you can. Something else you brought up, which I love too, was, you mentioned a therapist, creating a team,
Hmm.
but but also being mindful of the right fit, because you might get matched with
Yes.
people and they just may not be the right fit, and that's okay, but don't give up.
Very
Your
true.
speech and language pathologist, your personal therapist, if you have benefits, utilize them to the fullest.
Yes.
If you're getting
Yes.
ABA therapy, all those things, like having as much of a team as possible if you can.
Hmm.
If your child is in certain classrooms and you have an opportunity to meet other parents as well,
Yes.
having someone else who really understands your personal journey just a little bit better, a little bit more truly understanding what it is to be up at night trying to get child into the bed and
Take
maybe
the
off a
get
little
the
bit.
anxiety down. Yes.
Right. You
Yes.
know, I always say if you can join some kind of group for yourself, a support group, or
Yeah.
just a place where you have opportunity to talk to other parents who are also on your same journey, that can be very, very helpful.
It's very therapeutic. It
Yes.
is very therapeutic, very common. It doesn't make you feel like you're crazy because
Yes.
you're when you're talking to someone that doesn't have an autistic child, they're looking at you like, okay, they're being disrespectful. And that's not the
Right.
case. You need someone that understands the language per se of what you're going through. That can you can
Mhm.
kind of feed off of each other on what to do or what may help. What doctors can you see? Because therapy has definitely been a big help, and also the community of having other moms and talking to other kids that are autistic and just getting
Yeah.
their point of view of how they feel about certain things and just seeing the different varieties of autism because it's
Mm.
not
Oh,
one book
thank you.
fit
Yes.
all.
Yes.
It's not
And there
one
is
book that fits all. There's different varieties of it and they all move differently,
absolutely.
which puts us into IEPs, evaluations, and support services. IEPs are important. Like I can say it as a parent, but as a professional, how important are IEPs?
Excuse me, getting over a cold, but extremely important. And I would also say too, sometimes um there are, rote goals. You again being the expert on your child, of course academics are really important, but I
Mm-hmm.
always say make sure there are some social goals on there as well. Because
Right.
again, depending and again, of course, it depends on how autism actually shows up in your child. But really think about the whole child, opportunities for them to interact, because that's a skill in and of itself, learning how to work with others even if you don't share the same opinions, may
Yes.
not be
Yes.
completely fond,
Mm-hmm.
but just making sure that those IEP goals are for the whole child. And also again, you're the advocate and really talking about, I don't want you just to check off something on the paper. How
Right.
do you feel like my child is showing up? How do you feel like my child is interacting? I always push parents to have those conversations too. Yes, it is a legal document, and that's the other thing though. It is
Mm-hmm.
a legal document. So truly and honestly, if you truly feel like they are not supporting your child, make sure you have your examples and your documentation, because it is a legal written document and they do need to meet those goals. So if
Correct.
there are barriers or things are not happening, truly and honestly ask, so what is the action plan? How can we get over this bridge? Because whether you check it on the paper or not, I want my child to have this skill. So if there are
Right.
barriers, what can we truly do to get the child over the hump? Because at the end of the day, you do need a team for your child to be successful. So approaching it as, I am the parent, but I am on
Mm-hmm.
this team to support and help my child achieve the goals. It didn't happen, so what do we need to do? And really write like, do I need to up his speech and language goal and take a little bit away
Right.
from something else? But having real conversations about the child, not just the document.
Correct. That I completely agree. It's
Yeah.
one of those, and we've changed our son's IEP God knows how many times because there's always something that comes up.
Yes.
Testing, projects, stuff
Yeah.
that was an issue in elementary. So now we're having to look at it in a different way, even taking it a step further and emailing all the teachers individually. Hey, he's autistic. He has an IEP. They're dealing with thousands of kids. So they may see your child as a number or just they just have too many kids to pay attention. So you have to personally send out emails and say, hey, he has autism. This is his strengths. This is his weaknesses. He does this. Call me, text me. The principal, the teachers at my son's school have me on speed dial. It'll take me 2 seconds. I will bust 70 going down the highway to come get to the school. And
What
they
I
know it.
love though is you're being honest and you're upfront about, because sometimes parents will kind of put their children in and say, well, they may or may not know this. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna know this.
Mm-hmm.
So you being upfront and like, hey, this is my child, this is how he can be successful. These are things that help him be successful. These are
Right.
things that may not work so well in his favor to help him be successful, giving a heads up is really helpful, because again, it shows that I truly know my child, and I also want my child to be successful. So I
Very good.
love that. And at the end of the day, if something's not happening, you can also say, I did let you know up front
Mm-hmm.
what the challenges or barriers may be. So now that I've let you know and we're still having issues, now we can truly have another conversation if need be.
And it comes in very handy when you let them know up front, because you can go back to your emails and documentations
Yes,
and say, hey, this is it. Hey, this is the IEP. I did state this. We had a
yes,
meeting about this. You signed off on this. I
yes,
signed off on this. So where's the
yes,
miscommunication? And that goes into also parents being informed that the schools offer therapy as well,
yes, they
occupational therapy,
do.
physical therapy. So take advantage of that. That is an extra helping hand, because that
Absolutely.
helped our son as well. He still does it. We still get
Yes,
help, and he's in middle school. So I would say take full advantage of it. It's nothing. It's not embarrassing. There's you will be surprised how many other kids do the same things in school.
absolutely. Absolutely. Just whatever tools you can add to make your child as successful as possible. And that's how I would look at it. If they have, you know, study groups, social skill things, other extracurricular things that fall under that, absolutely take advantage of as much as you possibly can. Because a stronger team is going to help your child.
That is very true. What advice would you give moms that feel like they can't speak up or they're being shut down? Because I had this happen to me before, but I had one teacher told me that they learned about autism through a class, through a book, and it told them this, and I quickly shut them down. But I am different when it comes to my child. So some people are very quiet and they don't like confrontation. So, what would be the best way for them to advocate without feeling shut down?
Sure. So what I actually give some parents sometimes, especially like an IEP meeting where you kind of know what's going to be discussed. If there are certain things that you really want to make sure that you get across or you have points, there's nothing wrong with bringing little like note cards, honestly, just to make sure. Because sometimes in the heat of the moment, you can get thrown. They may bring up something, and so you forget, oh, I need to circle back around. But have your top
Right.
3 or 5 points written down. And I definitely have been on the other side helping friends who were going into IEP meetings. And sometimes I would do a disclaimer that, I am here to get what's best for my child. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that I need a team to support my child. I do have concerns, but at the end of the day, I really want us to problem solve and come up with some solutions. So even doing your own kind of ground rules before you even get started in the
Right.
conversation might ground you and
Mm-hmm.
might just set the tone, because sometimes, depending on the school or what other situations the teachers have been in, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they may be ready because of other, parents who, whatever. So you
Right.
showing who you are, setting the intention for the meeting, kind of reiterating that can hopefully help bring it down. I'm not saying it always will, but
True.
if nothing else, you set the intention for the meeting. Um, and again, if it's hard for you to have confrontation, before the IEP meeting, if there are certain teachers, certain people in the meeting that you think might have a harder time listening with a group, you may want to set something individual first, or at least say,
Okay.
hey, we're going to the IEP meeting. I do have this concern, just so you know, and then maybe you could even problem solve something and then bring it to the greater group. Because again, the goal is to get what your child needs for their best interest. And
That's very true.
confrontation can be very hard, but finding out ways, because again, if you know a certain teacher is coming to the meeting, you may even talk to them heads up, like, we're going to the IEP meeting. I love what's happening in your classroom. I know this teacher's qualified, but they're having some barriers. If you can kind of maybe share what's going on in your classroom, maybe that can help this teacher get ideas. There's nothing wrong with doing that kind of thing before the IEP meeting.
Right.
Just, I hate to say some plants, but having people who maybe you kind of talk to so that maybe they can also speak up or give some, advice or share what's going on and what's successful in their room might help as well.
Okay. That is that helps. I've actually did a little bit of all of that, so I can attest to it. It definitely helps. Thank you so much, Naima. You're dropping a lot of gems that's much needed. Talking to moms that weren't so lucky to get the advice that I was given, I think this is much needed information, and it may help someone to advocate for their child that had problems before. So now we're going to roll over into moms specifically and how important maternal health, mental health is for advocacy.
Yes. Some things it's really amazing to have a therapist for your child, family therapy, but if you can get your own therapist where you go individually just to check in with yourself, I think that is very important. Again, doing it with the family, doing it with your child, but you need something for you as well.
Right.
Again, we're so busy, but even, if your child is able to participate in extracurriculars or, groups and things like that, you being able to do something for yourself, even if it's while they're in their meeting, you're able to read something you really like or listen to something that you really like. I'm a mother, and you do everything for your children, and you can get lost in it very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's, they go to bed at a certain time, but you get a whole hour or hour and a half to yourself to reconnect with your spouse or take a bubble bath or something for yourself. Eat, the dessert without someone asking you, can I have some?
Mommy, can I have some?
Right. Mommy, can I have some? Sticking their finger and stuff. So small moments that you can reconnect with yourself.
Right.
Make sure
I am big on 5 minutes.
Yes.
I am big on having that 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, drop everybody off. Let me have my coffee, my tea, my music. Let me just, and then start my day, which leads me into the next question. What can moms do to minimize the burnout, the guilt, the permission, like they feeling that they need a permission to pause? Like if they stop, oh my goodness, it's the end of the world. How can they start to get rid of that feeling?
Yes. So the biggest thing that I see with a lot of moms, and it takes a minute, is the isolation. Isolating because, and the feeling that I can handle this, but I don't want to burden others, or I don't want to bring anybody else into this because this is a lot for me.
Right.
But trying to, again, like I said, going to groups and maybe connecting with a couple other moms, and you guys can, take the children out together even can be helpful.
Yes.
Having someone you can talk to. Maybe there are a few family members who really get it, where, you do feel comfortable. And understanding that, if people are offering to help.
Right.
If they are offering, allow them to come in. Allow them to help you. Don't take that as a sign of being weak. Don't take that as, they must think I can't do it myself. No, they see you doing it, and they probably just want you to sit down for a second.
I could have used you 13 years ago.
Start to shift your lens. Shift your lens,
Oh my goodness. I was really bad about that. It took us a good year before I would let anybody. I was even scared to let him be in the car with anyone.
I know.
So I could have used you like 13 years ago.
And it may take you being in the space, like the person coming to the house, but maybe you're not in the living room, but you're like in the next room. I'm not saying completely just, you want my child, great.
Right. Yeah.
But, maybe you can do something while someone else is in your home, and you kind of can listen, observe, to also reassure you that, okay, they got it. He wanted
Right.
that treat, but he got the one he can get without the sugar and the gluten. Okay. Like, you know,
Yes.
and I get those things. So you may want to allow the person in your space, but you still be around, but kind of observe how they are with your child, because you also want to make sure, if I'm allowing you to do this, I got to make sure that you are going to do it not exactly like me, but extremely similar.
Very, very, very close.
You
Very
know,
close.
very, very
Nothing that
close.
would throw
So,
the pattern off.
right. So it might be
So,
some of like, I'm gonna let you be over here, but I'm gonna be kind of in the area until I feel comfortable. But if people want to, allow them, and then if they need some support in like, okay, so when he acts like this is what you do.
right.
You can do that, but allow people who want to help to help. And if it's not directly, you know, with the children, allow people to make you meals, allow people to help you do certain activities, you know, allow people to help you.
Right. It minimizes the wear and tear on yourself
Yes.
and on your mental and that process of losing yourself. Because I think for me personally, that was the quickest way I lost myself.
That makes
So I feel like it minimizes that and taking care of yourself. I'm very, very big on that right now. I've been big on it since I've had my son, but also realizing that he fed off of my energy.
mm-hmm.
So however I felt, he felt.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he couldn't talk, I knew that okay, he's feeling how I'm feeling, so let me readjust.
Mm-hmm.
So how important is helping yourself, whether it be mental, physically, just in general?
Oh,
How
extremely important, because you have to be your best self to help other people. On the airplane, they always say if something goes down, put your oxygen mask on
this
first before
one,
you do
right?
other
Help
people.
someone else.
If you fall out first, you can't help anybody else anyway.
That is very true.
So
There's
you
no
have
way.
to, you know, if that's how you have to think of it, I've got to be as whole and complete as I can to even be able to support you on your journey.
Very true.
So sometimes you know, when I say that, then I'm like, oh, dang. Well, now that you say it like that, I guess me going off in the corner painting my toenails really is needed. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh yeah, it is definitely needed. It's such a ritual for me, and like I said, I went through a process of losing myself because I was stuck in mommy mode. I was stuck in wife mode, and I kind of forgot who I was before I became both of those things. And I finally got myself together, and I was like, okay, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do. This is my self care day. Don't bother me, Daddy. You on duty. You figure it out. Here's where everything is. It's organized. You go find it. And even now, my son, he's like, okay, so mommy, you having you time? Yes. Okay, I'll go get
Yes,
daddy.
and that becomes a routine.
It's a part of the routine. He
That
knows.
becomes a routine. That's
It is.
predictable. I know mommy's gonna do it. So when she
Yep.
says it, I know what to do.
Yes. And even now, they have their own little self care routine that they do for
See,
themselves.
and that's important too. Oh, I love this. That's important too. Bravo. It's not easy.
So,
Not easy.
no, it is not. It is not, but it is definitely a growing moment for not only him but for us as well. It's teaching us to be better parents, better people, but also showing him, hey, you know what? It's okay to take a time out for myself. If I'm feeling
Yeah,
stressed, let me go in the corner and get my thoughts together.
correct. Correct. I love that. That is awesome.
So what do you see for the future of autism and how people see it now? Because it's come a long, long way from what it was back in the day.
It's come a
What
long way. I still think there needs to be some work, but it's come a long way. In some ways, I feel like there's a slightly better acceptance. I think what's going to help with that again are people like yourself, parents out there showing what I the biggest thing I would try to get teachers to understand again is how is it showing up in this child? Don't take on the whole spectrum. How is it showing up in this
right,
child? And I think people are getting better at that,
right,
like seeing the child and seeing what the child needs. Um, But again, the best thing is getting your child out in public, out in front of people, not on display, but again, as you come into contact with people and they know he has autism, asking you questions, because a lot of things still is just not understanding. But once you
Right, it is.
understand and give it information, hopefully that will help to change behavior.
I
So
would
here,
say,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead, sorry.
No,
No, I
please.
was gonna say not to be ashamed. I've seen parents where they
Yes,
seem like they're ashamed of their kids because they're autistic. So I think that is a very big thing with social media and all the recording and pictures. I think a lot of parents that I've seen um are ashamed, and
yes,
it is nothing to be ashamed of. It's a
absolutely.
child.
It is a child, and see the child first. It is your child first, and then whatever else is going on. But your child comes first. See your
Very
child
true.
first.
Very, very true. I would say you will be amazed at what your child can do, even though they're autistic,
Yes,
if you pay
indeed.
attention.
And you don't limit them.
Yes.
Every child
Don't
has,
use it as a crutch.
yes, and build on the skills that they gain. Just keep going. Keep going. Do
Correct.
not
And
limit your child. They will shock you. They will surprise you.
there is one thing that I've noticed, and I'm not sure how common it is, and I never really paid attention to it until the therapist brought it to my attention, where they can be doing 1,001 things at once, but they can hear everything you say and know everything you're doing without looking at you.
Yes, ma'am. Believe it or not, doing all those thousand things somehow hyper focuses them. And
Yeah,
it's like it actually occupies a lot of the brain, like the busying part. And so that doing all these things, when you say something, boop, because they could, like, the thing that on the phone thinking they're not hearing you, then later on it comes up. You're like, wait a minute, I thought you were doing your
I
Lego.
wasn't talking to you.
Right. No one was, you were doing your Lego tower and something else. Why, how did you hear that?
Right. So I don't want parents to confuse, especially that is something that should be put in the IEP before I forget. That is definitely something that needs to be put in the IEP for parents where you see that your child is tinkering with fidgets
Yes.
or my
Oh,
son Beyblades,
yes.
cars. Put that in the IEP. It will make
Thank
a
you.
huge, huge difference. That
Yes.
way they won't get in trouble for having something that keeps them calm and keep them
That, and that
focused.
and that is how you describe it. This mechanism helps keep my child regulated, helps keep my child calm. And I use sometimes little things as strategies, even in the preschool class when the teacher would challenge me, like, he can't do that. Well, if he does it, he's gonna be
Hmm.
flipping all around your circle time. And the other
Hmm.
children would get it. They'd say, go get your medicine, whatever it was, if it was a weighted blanket or
Yeah,
because they wanted Johnny to listen to so they could do that. Like children did better than the adults sometimes with the strategy.
very true. Very, very true. I'm very grateful for my son's elementary school because his classmates, if he had a meltdown because he was frustrated, they would go grab a trinket or go grab him a piece of candy or something to help calm him down,
Yes.
talk to him and change the subject. And I'm like, these are young kids that are completely handling the situation awesomely.
Way better than the adults sometimes.
Yes.
It's not the children, it's not the peers. Sometimes I would have social partners with play for some children at the pre-K level, and they would do these masterful play. I was like, boy, you trying to get some of my paycheck? What's going on over here? I mean, they would do such an amazing job and make
Right.
sure that the child was on task. They tended to do better than the adults a lot of times.
It is very true. And I gotta say I'm very grateful because you can see the kids really don't care about the difference.
They don't.
Even if they know, they don't care.
No.
If it's their friend, it's their friend. If they need help, they're gonna help. They're gonna try to figure out, okay, you know what? You're having a moment. What do we need to do?
And that's what it is. In the moment, they may be like, what's going on? But when they realize something can help, they will do it.
Very true. Very, very true. I would say that the advocacy, but also being upfront with the students, especially for autistic kids that are in collaboration classes where they
Yes.
have other autistic kids, but they're also kids that don't have autism. I would say be very upfront with them. Go into the classroom, meet the other parents, meet
Yes.
the
Yes.
students,
Yes. Meet the students.
and
Yeah.
talk to them. And it makes a huge, huge difference. And that's where the advocacy come into, but also where that self-care for yourself as a mom comes into, because if you're frazzled and fried and upset, you're not able to do that.
Correct. As hard as it is, you do have to find moments for yourself because some days can be very, very heavy,
Yes.
depending on what's going on in time of year
Ye-
and other things, So you still need to be on the forefront of your mind just as much as your child.
Correct. And before we go, because I can talk about this all day, I can share resources, especially because you're given so much knowledge. As I wanted women to see other from other moms and couples, but from a professional aspect of what advice they can get, what they can do to help advocate for themselves and their child, and not feel like they're being a weight or a burden on anyone.
No, and again, if your child is your best interest, then you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Like I said, every child has a next step. So if you're advocating for the next step for your child, you are doing exactly what you need to do. Now, some people, you may have to, again, help them understand,
Right.
you know,
And
and think of it in those terms. I'm helping you understand my child.
that's it. It's not, and it's not going to be easy. I'm
No, it's
trying to figure out. It's not going to be easy. I'm trying to figure out. Well, maybe no, because I can't think of me personally. I know everyone's situation is different, but me personally, it wasn't easy to explain. It was kind of like, okay, see this happen. This is what you do. This is why it's happening. You see
Yep.
this happen. This is what you
Mm,
do. This is why it's happening. If you see this, don't do this. Don't touch it.
right.
Don't talk to him.
Right.
Let him go.
Right.
Cover his ears. Don't do
Yes.
this when he's there. Put him in another room. Like we had a list of things to
And that,
do
and
and
that,
not to do.
and that is very helpful because, again, it's sometimes easier to identify too. Okay, I made you a list. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this didn't happen. What do
Right.
we need to do here? And again, not that you want the confrontation, but at the same time, if these are the strategies that are gonna make my child successful, let me help you help my child be
That's
successful.
correct.
That's how you have to look at it.
That is true. It's to help mommy, and I know some of them are grown and babies. I'm just gonna
Yes,
say babies.
they're
But
older
whatever
babies.
tell your babies, be successful in life, because the
That's
world is
what it
not
is.
going to baby them. They're not going to give them a crutch to lean on. They're going to treat them the way they treat everyone else.
Right. And if they,
So
I mean, and again, not that you want to, but have conversations with your child too. Like, mommy had a meeting at school because I want to make sure you're getting everything that you need because they also
yes,
need to know that they're important and
right,
someone has their back and someone is trying to make sure that, if we've had a few meltdowns this week, I'm trying to help the adults understand how
right.
to help you in those situations. I think that's important too, especially with
It is.
children.
It is. If your kids are older or they can understand
Right.
certain things, I would say it's very important to sit and talk to them and
Right.
let them know that you have their back, and let them know
Right.
no matter what. Like with my son, I'm like, okay, if you have this issue, you text me, you call me, or you
Right.
ask the
That's
teacher, you
right.
call me, and I will be there. I have your back. I'm
Absolutely.
here to protect you.
And then
And the
that also
more
helps with the communication, helps them when
it
things
does,
are happening, not bottling inside and letting you know.
there we go. We paused for just a
Okay.
moment here. But it is very important, just because if they hold everything in, they explode eventually. And
That's it.
that's a meltdown that's hard to fix. It takes a while to fix it.
It does. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Naima, like I said, I could have this conversation all day because
Oh,
this is a
thank
much
you.
needed conversation. I want to thank you so, so much for being on. Before we go, is there any words of wisdom you would like to leave with our mommies to help them succeed further with their journey?
All I can say is, first of all, if no one's told you you're doing a good job, if no one's taken the time to acknowledge your efforts or to see you, I see you and I'm acknowledging you. That's number one. Number two, try again as best you can to carve out. I love, Tina, you saying 5 minutes to yourself. Because if you can start doing 5 minutes, eventually you do 10 minutes, you might be able to make it up to 30. And just really making sure that you are giving yourself some care before you can care for others. And then the other thing I will say is, there are definitely hard days, sometimes more challenging days, but enjoy your children and recognize the absolute unique skills and things that they have going on, the silly little quirky things that they say, the, dry humor that you might be experiencing, and just relish in that because you are raising a unique individual.
That is so, so true. Naima, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Beauties, this is it. This is day 2 of Bliss Beyond Limits. We have had a really good time. I hope you got some information that you needed that will help you succeed. If you have any questions or any concerns, please reach out to Naima. Her social is on the screen, or will be on the screen, and you can reach out to us at Beauty and Me with Tina. I will get you over her information if anything needed, and get you over some resources. There's a lot of resources that is to be had to help you with the process with your beautiful, beautiful kids. So until next time, beauties, I hope everyone have a wonderful evening. And again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.